any enterprise they can imagine on Mars, things that we take granted on Earth, as well as things that don't exist anywhere but Mars. So we're like the Union Pacific. So our goal is to get people there. We'll need to construct the initial propellant plant to produce propellant on Mars, and sort of the initial, like obviously the Mars spaceport and the sort of the beginnings of like the essential elements for and to get Mars base, and then thereafter we really want to run 1,000 hours work here, and we definitely want to make sure that we don't infringe upon the opportunities that people may have to create things on Mars. And it's like if people feel like SpaceX is just going to do that, then they will be less willing to do it. So we're really trying to create a conduit to Mars to enable people to do an incredible number of things there. And just as something sort of made California really, we'd like to have it be that way for Mars. And I think like I said, I'm not too worried about safety on the way there from radiation. I think that risk is
well, not just radiation, but also microgravity. I mean, and the life support systems. Is that also included in the architecture? I wasn't clear.
I just think those are essentially solved problems. Like we've been able to have astronauts in orbit for well over a year, and this is a 3-month journey. So really, I think that's more or less a solve the problem. You can do it in more mass-efficient ways, but it's not a fundamentally new technology to keep people alive in space. So I would say it's fairly straightforward. The challenge is really getting there, and the huge challenge is making it something getting cost such that enough people can afford to go to make it a self-sustaining civilization. That's the fundamental challenge.
Okay. Elon, it's Irene Thoughts with further. Thanks for coming over here. I wanted to ask you, first of all, if funding this mission would affect any of your holdings in like Solar City. In other words, are you going to cash out some of your other assets to fund this? And if you could clarify a little bit about the time to get to Mars, because I think I heard you say 90 days, which please explain. Thanks.
Well, I mean, the funding transfer time is pretty straightforward. It just depends on your departure velocity from Earth. The synchronization events only occur every 26 months. So there's, every 26 months, there's approximately a 6-month window where you can do a Mars transit. Which kind of makes sense because Mars takes Mars 2 years to go around the sun, and you can basically transit to Mars when you're in the right quadrant. You can't go there when it's on the other side of the sun.
Right.
And the faster you exit Earth, the quicker you can get to Mars. So the low energy transition to Mars or transfer to Mars would be 67 months. That would be maybe a 4.5 kilometer per second departure velocity. At 6 kilometers per second, you can drop that down to sort of roughly 3 months.
Okay.
And then over time, I suspect the number will come down to perhaps under a month. Although the amount of energy to do that, and then you also need to then apply energy to braking, is substantial. So I think, but certainly we're not breaking any more specifics to get there in a month, which is quite energy intensive.
Thanks. And then the finding your personal investment in this and your shares in Tesla, Solar City, what you would cash out, if anything, to fund it.
I can't comment on public company securities because the consequences of that will be quite clear. At some point in the future, not immediately, the reason that I'm accumulating personal assets is in order to fund humanity becoming a multi-planet species, and some other things that are funding as well, pediatric healthcare, environmental issues, and education. But I mean, AI, safety, but really the primary thing, the thing that will absorb an enormous amount of try to ask everyone to one question. Thank you.
Okay, one question. Bob Coppinger from the BBC. So, see, you want lots of people to go. You're talking about your timeline to then launch to Mars in early 2020s. Are you going to launch any sort of website where interested people can come and register? Maybe like what a Mars wants, generates really interest. So this event doesn't happen and then people don't hear anything for some time and can't do anything to really get engaged.
But I think when we get closer to actually sending people to Mars, then we'll be, try to get some sense of what the demand level is. And say, people could perhaps put down a small down payment on a trip to Mars. But we want to get pretty close to the actual trip and be highly confident that we can meet the cost targets and within reason the time frames before we do that. But certainly maybe 2 or 3 years before an expected launch event.
Sorry, an expected what? Sorry, I didn't catch that last bit.
Sorry, I said
2 or 3 years to what? I didn't quite catch the last bit of your last go.
Basically 2 or 3 years before an expected launch.
Okay.
Yeah. We just want to make sure that we know what it actually is going to cost and the time to a year or two before accepting advance ticket orders.
I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more about the cryogenic on-orbit refueling. What are the technical challenges with that, and do you have plans to pilot that in the future?
Sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble hearing you. Maybe you want to raise the mic.
Sorry about that. Tim Fernald from Quartz. I'm just curious if you can talk about the technical challenges involved in on-orbit refueling and whether you have plans to pilot that in your future.
Yeah, on-orbit refueling is essentially it's about having 2 spacecraft, dock, mate, and exchange fluid, which was certainly a joke in there somewhere. But we already docked at the space station, and we're taking full berthing, but it will be an fully autonomous docking capability around the end of next year. So having fully autonomous docking capability basically gives you on-orbit refueling. When I say refueling, I use the word refilling because technically there's 3.5 times as much oxygen as there is fuel. The oxygen-fuel ratio is 3.5 to 1, so it's really re-oxygenating and with some refueling. That's actually what it amounts to. But I think that's going to be a relatively straightforward element. If we dock with the space station, which is a very complex docking maneuver, the NASA requirements are quite severe for space docking. Then having 2 spacecraft dock in orbit is not too much of a problem.
Cameron, PBS, what are the obstacles that you can't control that need to be overcome to accomplish this goal?
The obstacles that I can't control? Well, I guess there's always space. Unfortunately. The pace of progress is on Mars depends on the pace of progress of SpaceX. To what degree do we achieve a good launch rate? Our success rate with Falcon 9 is roughly 93%, but it's not out of family with some other launch vehicles, but it needs to be a lot better. We need to get Falcon Heavy, the launch finally, Dragon 2, and make sure that we manage the company such that we've got sufficient positive cash flow to fund Mars development. And of course, I will supplement that personally. And I think there may be other individuals who want to do that. And considering at some point in the future, there may be, I have no idea if there will be, but there might be a NASA COT program or something like that. Just unnecessary, really. This is ultimately about maximizing probability the future is good and minimizing existential risk. So I think whatever means increases that probability is good. I don't think fundamental technical obstacles to what we propose. There's no underground. No, yeah. A lot of hard engineering.
For me with AFC agency. You said in the past that the first manned mission to Mars could arrive in 2025. Is that still in your plan? And would it be on the Falcon Heavy rocket or on this new rocket that you presented today? And then how fast would you build up to that vision of having 100 people fly to Mars?
Yeah, for sending people to Mars, it would be definitely with the interplanetary transport system would be what we would send people to Mars with. It could technically be done with a bunch of Falcon Heavy launches, but this is, I mean, you really wouldn't want to travel to Mars in a Dragon, because in Dragon, the interior volume is roughly equivalent to that of a large car. So 3 months is a long time spent in a car. And we really need to transport a lot of equipment there. So the first mission where people aren't would be with the sort of particle spaceship. So from a time frame standpoint, we aspire to launch in late 2024 with an arrival in 2025. This is that's optimistic. So I would describe that as an aspiration, and within the realm of possibility. But a lot of things need to go right. That said, I don't think it will be significantly beyond that, if particular later.
Hey, Elon, it's Chris Davenport from the Washington Post. Leading up to today, there was obviously a lot of anticipation, and then after the September 1st failure, you start hearing concerns about saying, you should be focused on Falcon 9 and commercial crew and getting astronauts to LEO and stations and are coming up. I wonder if you could address those concerns for us and what your response is to all that.
As I mentioned, less than 5% of SpaceX resources are working on the interplanetary transport stuff. It is very much a secondary or tertiary priority to understand exactly what happened on the last mission, the last Falcon flight, almost flight. It's the most vexing and difficult thing. It would be incorrect to say that it is anything other than our absolute top priority to understand exactly what we're doing there and what we can do to prevent things like that in the future. We've eliminated all of the obvious possibilities for what occurred there. So what remains are the less probable answers. But anyway, this is just a small thing on a long road. There will probably be other failures in the future. We've not lost a single contract as a result of it, because people in launch business understand this. And it's just that if something happens with SpaceX, it gets 100 times more press than if another rocket fails, maybe 1,000. And so the public, they may think only our rockets fail, but actually lots of rockets fail.
Hi, Ken Chang from New York Times. I believe you gave an estimate of $10 billion. I was wondering what that exactly includes. Does that include Mars ports? And could you describe what sort of public-private partnerships you're envisioning to help pay for it? Are you hoping for a NASA contract?
When I started SpaceX, I had no expectation of any government contracts. And so SpaceX entirely with my own mind. I had about $180 million from the sale of PayPal to eBay, of which $100 million went into SpaceX, 70 to Solar City, about 10, and sort of 70 Teslas, 10 to Total City. So everything actually. And what like I expected, most likely outcome was failure. Well, that's the same. Originally, I thought I would only spend $15 million in SpaceX and not have plenty of money left over, but then I couldn't let my baby die, so I put it all in. Sometimes, the sort of criticism that like I'm somehow after government money by various assholes out there. Couldn't care less, really. NASA is our most significant customer. We do about a quarter of our launches, but 3/4 of our launches are commercial. In the future, there may be an NASA contract. There may not be. I don't know. If there is, that's a good thing. If there's not, probably it's not a good thing. Because there are larger issues at stake here. Are we going to become multi-planet species or not? Not pedestrian questions of is it a public or private or what the percentage is. These are small and tawdry questions.
It's Frank Morgan with Aviation Week. We haven't heard much from your side about the near-term missions to Mars that you're working on, using the traction to red traction to do a robotic landing on Mars. I wonder if you could walk us through what you hope to accomplish with these missions, how many of them you expect, I guess one per planetary opportunity, and whether, the subsequent missions, if you'll make payload space available to NASA or other comers.
Yeah, well, really, we want to use Dragon to be as Pathfinder. So if you know anything to another planet, so we need to sort out interplanetary navigation, deep space communication at high bandwidth. There's currently no high bandwidth deep space communication system, and then entering the Mars atmosphere, and landing. What is landing like if you land something heavy? Because Dragon will be about 10 times heavier than anything that's landed on Mars before, and it will land with thrusters close to the surface. So the curiosity, they really were concerned about having thrusters close to the surface, which is why they use sort of hovering things. But there's just no way to do that with a giant spaceship. So one of the questions, like if you're coming, fast, then you dig a big hole in the ground. Like what kind of dust and rocks do you throw up? The Mars thermoflux is pretty hard, but how well does it hold up to rocket blast? These are all tough questions. I wouldn't give the first Dragon landing on Mars high odds. Maybe 50%, or maybe 50%. The history of landing on Mars is not a good one. For those who are familiar with Mars. So for first timer, I'd say if we get 50% likelihood, I'd say that's pretty good. But just kind of figure out the issues. Keep sending them on every opportunity. Maybe send 2 in 2020. And then also we want to find out what's the easiest way to get water. Because water, if we're doing the local propellant production, carbon dioxide is easy in the atmosphere. So we really only need to make sure that your dust filters, you clean your dust filters. But getting the CO2 is super easy. Getting the water is much harder. There's ice all over Mars, but in what form? How dirty is the ice? How much energy do you need to use to extract the water? Because if it's only a small water percentage of the unit mass of the regolith, then we're going to use more energy to heat it and purify it. So how do you one of the biggest questions?
Elon, I noticed on your funding options list that there was no mention of satellites. You've spoken before about a SpaceX satellite. constellation that might provide revenue, cash flow for this or other missions? Is that still part of SpaceX's plan?
We do have some ideas on a satellite constellation, but now's not the time to talk about them. I think we'd reserve that for a future event. But there's certainly a lot of opportunity there. That I think would be very helpful in funding a Mars city.
Hi, Maddie Drake with National Geographic. I was wondering about the planetary protection aspect of sending spacecraft to Mars and putting humans on Mars, and if this is something that you thought about, and if so, what are the issues that you considered? What are some of the questions? Do you have any potential solutions?
Well, I mean, that's right. So far, we've really not seen any sign of surface life on Mars. There's clearly nothing on the surface of Mars, I think. There may be subterranean chemotropic bacteria. I suspect they're pretty hardy, and there's not much that we could do to take them out even if we wanted to. But that's really what we're talking about in terms of planetary protection. But I think really the plans we should be concerned about protecting is Earth. That's where life exists as we know it, in abundance. And I mean, to some extent, we are life's agents. We can bring life as we know it and breathe life into Mars where it doesn't exist today, and ensure that if there is some cataclysmic event on Earth, that life as we know it continues to exist.
Hi, Elon. From Time Magazine. I'm just wondering, we've had one of the hottest years on record. There's only so many hours in the day. Why focus on developing new technologies to make us multiplanetary rather than developing technologies that can help us save the Earth?
Well, I do have another day. I do really want to do another job. Tesla is doing electric cars and solar power. I think is an important part of making Earth's future good. We have to have sustainable energy generation consumption. And one thing I forgot to mention actually in the slides is that obviously we're going to use solar power on Mars to create fuel and oxygen. But that same thing in the long term can be extended to Earth, where we can actually extract CO2 from the atmosphere, combine it with water, and bind it to small stage 4O2. So in the long term, it can be a completely sustainable fuel source on Earth as well.
Great.
You alluded at the beginning to talk to possibly growing plants on Mars if you were to change the atmosphere. You didn't get into that any further. Is that a separate track of research that you're working on? And can you extend a little bit further?
You mean the Mars Oasis thing, or sorry, which question?
You said you could raise the pressure on Mars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, long term, if you warm the planet up, there's a lot of frozen carbon dioxide and ice on Mars. So as you warm the planet up, you would actually create oceans. But there used to be oceans on Mars. It just got too cold, and then over a billion years, a large part of the atmosphere kind of was blown away by the solar wind. But that happens over time scales of hundreds of millions to billions of years. So if you want to planet up, it would densify the atmosphere, and just with atmospheric densification and maybe UV protection, then they might need UV protection. You could grow plants on the surface of Mars. And you can basically terraform Mars to make it an Earth-like planet.
So do you have, is part of this the intention to terraform Mars? And can you explain what the method is for that?
Terraforming is something that would take place over a long period of time, and I think would be ultimately the decision of the people of Mars. We need to get there in the first place. This is about getting there in the first place. Otherwise, it's a little academic.
Hey there, Michael Barnett, Netflix Originals. Talking about getting there in the first place. Can you talk to me about some of the short-term concrete benefits of sending people to Mars in the near future?
Well, I think the larger point point is creating a self-sustaining civilization on Mars to provide insurance for life as a whole, life as we know it. It's called backing up the biosphere, and really it's the decision as to whether we want to become a multi-planet species in a space-faring civilization or not. And some people think it's fine to stay on Earth forever, and some people don't. But I think a future where we are a space-faring civilization and out there among the stars is infinitely more exciting and inspiring than one where we are not. You basically, I think, have to hate humanity if you don't like that future. What are the implications of not going? Well, it's being confined to one planet until an eventual extinction event.
Elon, Thomas Schumann from the Danish Broadcasting Corporation.
So you need to talk a bit louder and talk closer to the mic.
Works. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm Thomas Schumann from Danish Broadcasting Corporation. And I was wondering, I just came here now, but so I don't know if the question has already been stated, but is there any launch abort capability on the booster vehicle?
I did not understand your question.
Is there any launch abort?
Launch abort. The spacecraft itself is capable of aborting from the booster. But a launch abort is kind of on the booster. A launch abort on the spaceship itself is kind of pointless because, if you're on Mars, you're taking off or you're not taking off. I mean, parachutes don't work too well, and if you have sort of some standard abort system, and you just have you aboard 100 people. It's just not feasible. The key is to make the spaceship itself extremely safe and reliable and have redundancy in the engines, high safety margins, and have it be well tested, much like a commercial airliner.
Like they didn't give you parachutes
from a commercial airliner.
But you're saying that the vehicle itself would be able to separate and...
Yeah, the spaceship could separate from the booster and climb away from the booster if there's a problem at booster level.
Thank you.
Hi, Jonathan Castañeda from WhatsApp.com. And I don't know if anyone asked this question before, but my question is what kind of data you are getting from and sending to NASA and the other space agencies in regards to this new bold plan to colonize Mars? Well, we're in constant communication with NASA, particularly since we work with them on many levels. Provided part of the presentation I gave today to some of the NASA senior management ahead of time. But we really only finished the presentation this morning, so you're seeing it fresh.
Thank you. Carolina Ruiz from...
You need to speak loudly, I cannot hear you otherwise. I can get close to the mic.
Yeah? Who? Is it?
Yeah.
Carolina Ruiz calling of both Mexico. SpaceX plans to install any assembly or manufacturing plant in Mexico. Mexico is part for this great plan to go to Mars.
Because of ITAR constraints, it's quite difficult for us to do manufacturing or source components outside of the U.S. Whereas this is different for Tesla. It's got nothing to do with some, desire to just only source things from the U.S. on the part of SpaceX. Because rockets are considered an advanced weapons technology, it's very difficult for us to make it more international. We'd like to, if we can, as against the law. Tesla is much more international because it is not against the law.
Thank you.
All right, just a couple more questions. If you think that people would really want to know about. Hello, my name is Elon from Contrasting Newspaper. I have a question about shielding technology. As you know, in space there are several microfragments of meteorites and stones, and at larger speeds it could damage the ship a lot. So I want to ask you about the status of shielding technology and how do you plan to apply it to the ship and the dangers? Yeah, I mean, I shield. So a Dragon has impact shielding as well as thermal shielding, and we would have
shielding as well on the spaceship. Part of the value of scale of the spaceship is that the walls will be so strong that actually they could resist a lot of micrometeorite impacts just by themselves. It is certainly something we understand quite well and have that on our Dragon spacecraft. It's not something that's a problem in deep space or on Mars. It just tends to be a problem in certain altitudes on Earth orbit. So are there any plans to create energy fields or just wall fields from the ship? Energy fields. Like the ship is protected by these walls. You put materials in the ship that are strong enough to sustain any damage from the microfragments. Yeah. So what about energy fields are you planning to? Well, maybe you refer to having a big sort of electromagnetic field around the ship that's not going to really be very helpful against micrometeorites, but it could be helpful if you have big enough fields for alpha particles from the sun or any kind of high energy charged particle. If you have big enough fields, you can deflect that, so that could be useful in the future. Thank you. Good dog speaks right now. So we noticed that now you have, looks like 3 grid fins, 3 landing leg. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that design change, why you went from 4 down to 3? You only really need 3. For control, I mean, technically, you can get away with 2 grid fins in a reconfiguration. With 3, you're really doing fine. You essentially want to control pitch you on roll. And just like an aircraft with an empennage, you've got a rudder and an elevator. Just having Elon, the 3 gives you really good control on 3 axes. The 4 is kind of redundant. I guess there's some value to having a redundancy, but you really only need 3. In that case, do you still have control authority even with 3 going down to 2 if something would happen to 1? You could compensate for it with attitude control thrusters at the extent of additional propellant. The really hard one is pitch. Pitch requires, you need very powerful thrusters to control pitch. So that's really the control dimension that's the hardest, which you can do with just 2 fins. Well, in the Mars entry, it shows the craft coming in kind of on the long side of it. And that's right. So how does it have that enough control authority to get to pitch it up and actually put its tail down? Can you talk a little bit about the really heavy thrusters that can... Yeah, there'll be heavy-duty control thrusters on the spacecraft. And they won't be cold gas, they'll be gaseous methane oxygen. And I mean, we're talking pretty powerful for attitude control thrusters go. I mean, you're talking 10-ton thrust type thrusters, I mean, or if not more. The thing to bear in mind though with Mars is once you slow down, once you're subsonic, the atmospheric effects are very weak because the atmospheric density is so low. So it's a lot easier to control with thrusters than on Earth because the air forces are massively diminished. Awesome, thank you. Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions. If you have any follow-up, please